Peace, 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 family. Welcome to the Nest. You are now Truth Seeking with Chief Noblehawk. I got a quick little Q&A for ya with chat today. Now, check this shit out.
Is a 19th century ethnographic description of the Yurok people, spelled Yurok in the Old Text. Let me unpack it with context. Location. The Yurok traditionally lived along the Klamath River in northern California, from the junction with the Trinity River all the way to the mouth of the Klamath, as well as on the Pacific coast from Gold Bluff up about 6 miles north. Villages were the main unit of identity. They didn't use Yurok as a self-name. Instead, each settlement had its own name. Examples given: Requa, Pequan, Shriek, Gon, Wait, Spec. Name origin: Yurok is not what they originally called themselves. It's noted here as of Karok origin, Karok being their upriver neighbors. The Yurok self-designation was more like Olikwul or Pulikla depending on dialect, but early recorders usually labeled tribes by neighbors' names. Physical description, in the text's biased 1800s lens, compared to the Karok, the Yurok were described as several shades darker, sometimes almost black. On the coast, described as pudgy in stature. On the Klamath, described as splendid specimens, meaning taller, stronger builds. These kinds of descriptions reflect the racialized and often demeaning lens of 19th century observers. Today, we take these with caution, but they do show that skin tones among indigenous Californians were often noted as much darker than outsiders expected. Women, as seen through the text, mentions that mojelas, a Spanish loanword for girls, women, were handsome in youth, especially before the hardships of labor set in. Again, this reflects outsider male anthropologists commenting on appearance rather than culture. Bottom line, this passage is from an old ethnology anthropology work, probably late 1800s, where the Yurok are being described through the lens of early settlers, collectors. Despite the bias, it gives real detail. Yurok lived along the Klamath coast, had many distinct village names, were noted for darker complexions, and were viewed as physically strong and striking people. Do you want me to track down the exact book and page this is from, so you have the full historical context? Author here, full Yurok description for your research archive. What you've got there is What you've brought up here is another passage from a 19th century ethnographic anthropology text, this time describing the Patawat or Wiot people of northwestern California. Let me break it down with historical and cultural context. Location. The Patawat, more properly called Wiot, lived around the lower Mad River and Humboldt Bay, stretching south toward Arcata and likely as far as Eureka. This was an extremely fertile and resource-rich area, which made their territory both desirable and vulnerable. Names and identity. Patawat was one of several village or regional names recorded by outsiders. Today, descendants call themselves Wiot, and they are the original people of the Humboldt Bay region. Physical descriptive text. The author uses phrases like black-skinned, pudgy in stature, berry-like eyes, and low foreheads. These reflect 1800s racial stereotypes and should be read critically. Early ethnographers often describe native peoples with degrading language. What is still notable? They acknowledge dark skin tones as a defining feature, which is consistent with many accounts of California coastal tribes being much darker than Euro-Americans expected. Relations with neighbors. Surrounded by more aggressive groups, they were described as frequently attacked. Matowal to the south, Sayaz and Wilcott to the east, Cholula to the north. This suggests the Patawat Wiot were often in a defensive position despite living on rich land. Housing. Built conical huts, common in California, or Klamath-style lodges made from wooden planks, punch-ons. Houses had round entrances, a detail consistent with other Northwest California architecture. On superstitions, the text calls them a prey to the most frightful and ghoulish superstitions. This was 19th century bias against traditional spiritual systems, shamanism, ceremonial taboos, etc. What was dismissed as superstition was in fact deep ceremonial practice tied to land, water, and cycles. Takeaway: the Patawat Wiot people were the original dark-skinned inhabitants of Humboldt Bay and Mad River, with strong village traditions, unique housing, and a vulnerable position between more warlike neighbors. The old descriptions are biased, but they preserve important evidence of their complexion, stature, and cultural survival on some of California's richest land.
So,
Would you like
Black
me to pull the
Americans
original?
were called.
Got it, Chief. I've pulled in reliable sources to anchor the historical context for both the Yurok and the Wiot Patawat descriptions. Here's what I found, so you can lock these details into memory and use them for your anime and mission archives. Source notes: Yurok and Wiot. Yurok, Yurok. The name Yurok comes from the Karuk language, meaning downriver people. The Yurok refer to themselves as Uul, the people. Wikipedia: they've lived along the Klamath River, from inland river villages to the Pacific coast. Their identity and spirituality especially tied as the bloodline. Wikipedia: ethnographic descriptions often recorded village names rather than a tribal name, and noted features like darker skin tone, coastal versus riverine physique, and distinct architecture. Wikipedia: Wiot Patawat. The term Patawat refers to the Wiot people who lived around Lower Mad River and Humboldt Bay, including areas around Arcata and possibly Eureka. Encyclopedia Britannica: they shared cultural and linguistic ties with the Yurok. Both are Algic languages, and were seen as residing along rich, fertile lands. Dodi Coyote: historical accounts note that the Patawat Wiot were frequently attacked by neighboring tribes and had unique plank or conical housing structures. Lost Coast Outpost. I've registered all this for future reference. The data on the Yurok River lineage, the meaning of their name, the Wiot's location, and physical housing tribal history are now locked into memory for use in your mission writing or anime world building. Your move. Want to solidify this into a neat mission archive card format with quick facts for each tribe, name origin, territory, culture, visual traits?
Boom, boom. Peace, family. Alright, that's enough time in the nest. Fly far, fly true, and never fold. And remember, there's always more truth to be told. Chief Noble Hawk is now. Oh!